All right, 1 second here. All right, 1 second here. All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Question came in last week and sort of dealt with it. Pirkei Avos hit it a little bit, but whatever, we'll hit a little bit now, and we'll see where it goes. The question was, is how does the person in general, how do you, if a person, let's say they're kind of blunt, right? Let's say, they can be blunt. So how do you work at not offending people, right? Instead of being blunt, so this is good for Elul. Definitely good for Elul over here as we go into the month of Elul. So question, really it's twofold. That how do you deal with that and being blunt, right? Being blunt at the same time. So first part is, how do you overcome the tendency not to want to offend people? That's a good question. Definitely a good question. So simple answer, or one potentially answer, is the fact that there's a general rule, and the general rule is, as I think Hillel said, don't do unto others you wouldn't want to be done to you. Now the problem is, we may think a person deserves it. They deserve something, to happen to them or to say to them, let's say better. So a person will justify what they do, and they'll say they deserve it. They have it coming. They have it coming. There's another issue. And this is a more, I guess I would say, more of a delicate issue. And spoken about this, did a video on Tanakh talk about this as well. And that is, we believe we're right. Right? We who keep Torah mitzvahs 100%, we believe the Torah is true. God spoke to Moshe Mount Sinai. Moshe passed it down to the Jewish people. So no question, we think we're right. 100% we think we're right. Now, based on that, other people take that and they'll say, oh, he's got an ego. Or as we say here in Israel, he's got an ego. He's egotistical. What, do you think your way is the only right way? There's only one way to do things. So in that sense, do I have to worry someone's going to be offended? No. I don't have to worry about that. But, and obviously, there's always a but. And the but is, I still have to be careful. We don't want to ram things down people's throats, even though, let's say and this happens, I'm sure, quite a bit, that people say offensive things to us. So we want to answer them. We want to say something back. Now I got to be careful. Two wrongs over here don't make a right. Just because someone's obnoxious and say things doesn't necessarily mean, I have to offend them. Doesn't mean I can't give them, let's say, a snappy answer. It doesn't mean I can't answer them. But we have to be careful. Now, what's the problem? Problem is we take what we do seriously, and we're holding or trying to hold by what God says and what God wants from me. So that's all very good, but when someone tramples on it and someone makes fun of it, it's hard to be quiet. Very hard to be quiet. Not everything I have to answer. We mentioned before, people have an agenda. I don't have to necessarily answer an agenda because that's not going to answer anything because I'm not interested in an answer. But I also have to be careful. There's a famous story. There's a famous story with Rabbi Chaim Coffman, a blessed memory, one of the Torah giants of the last generation. Rabbi Chaim Coffman, every day, he would greet, I guess on his way to yeshiva, wherever he's going, he would greet these two nuns. He would see them every day. He'd say good morning to them. Right? So a person going to say, really? Torah giant is going to say good morning to a bunch of nuns? So they're going to say, well, what? They're not human? Right? They're not creative at Tselem Elokim. Everyone's creating God's image. Everybody. Right? So when they heard he passed away, they're a little bit broken because, here's someone obviously disagrees with what they do and what they believe and everything else. But still, he looked at them as just being creative at Tselem Elokim, being created in God's image. He would greet them, good morning, say good morning to them. Other people would say, what? I'm going to say hello to them. Look what they do. Look what they represent, and all this. We might be justified a certain way. No one says we have to be, so open-minded over here till our brains fall on the floor. No one's saying that. But, do I have to go out of my way to be obnoxious? No. Do I have to be nasty to them? No. I don't have to be nasty to them. Why would I have to be nasty to them? Right? So Rabbi Chaim Coffman showed us by example. Even somebody like that. So the problem is we have pride, we have ego. We don't necessarily think about what we do. And that's what we have to do. The fact is we have to be introspective. So before we speak or before we act, think about how it might affect someone else. Directly. Think about what would happen if it was done to you. Let's mention that. Would someone want what you're going to do or say to them? Right? Would you want that done to you? No, I don't think so. Right? Unless someone's a masochist and whatever. I don't think that's the case. Nobody wants that. Right? Nobody wants that. Who wants that? Right? Who wants that? Nobody wants it. So we got to think. We got to think what it means. We got to think of what it means that what we're going to say can affect someone else. Now, a person could say, who cares? They get offended. That's their problem. Right? Essentially, it's their problem. That's not true. Because the reality is I said something or somebody said something that offended someone else. Someone here mentioned, well, don't we pray every day? We should keep our mouth shut. Yeah. Yeah, we got to be careful. Don't fear destruction of the wicked when it comes. Yeah, God's going to take care of business. We have no doubts. Evil people will be taken care of. But still, we have to be careful what we say. If a person thinks about saying something, they're going to say something. Let's say someone, we'll make it easy. Someone offended them or whatever. You want to answer. You want to answer them. Or you want to say someone didn't offend you. I don't know. You say something to someone. Think before you speak. Because the Gemara says that's why you have teeth, that's why you have a tongue. Right? So before you say something, it's going to get stuck. So maybe you won't say it. Maybe it won't come out. But I would say, simple advice on this would be that think about what you're going to say and how it would affect if someone said it to you. I don't think too many people would be ecstatic if that was said to them. And they would feel bad. Well, what's the answer to that? We kind of get stuck here. What's the answer to that? The answer is we don't think when we speak. Knee-jerk reactions. A lot of times, knee-jerk reaction. And that is definitely not good. Because we have to be in control at all times. Even when it's hard. Even if someone's doing something obnoxious and whatever. Very hard, to keep your mouth shut. So that would be one piece of advice. Overcoming this tendency not to want to offend people. Think about if someone offended you. Right? Someone asks and waiting for this question. And that is, what if you say something from Torah and the person felt offended? So you don't have to worry about it. Someone will say, a Jew married to a non-Jew. And the non-Jewish spouse gets offended because X, Y, and Z. You won't really have that much to do with them. Or really speak to them, whatever. You don't have that much of a connection. That person's going to get offended. Right? Probably the Jew will get more offended than the non-Jew, but let's say in this case, the non-Jew gets offended. They get offended, but you're holding by what your rabbis told you to do. You're holding by what the Torah said to do. The other person gets offended, says, Moy Rebbe, should be well. What would he answer? He'd say, go eat kugel, you don't like it. He'll tell you to go eat kugel. He's worried someone's going to get offended because that's what the Torah says. It's their problem. Not our problem. Right? Not our problem over here. If I say what the Torah says and someone jumps up and down and says, oh, that's racist. Oh, that's terrible. And how could you believe in a God like that? And all this. Give an example. Let's say someone finds out, or you're speaking about the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKein. Shiluach HaKein, you shoo away the mother bird. When the mother bird's hovering over eggs, you shoo away the mother bird, take the eggs, you make egg drop soup. Right? You make egg drop soup. So, person says, how can you do that? That's cruel. That's cruelty. Well, what does the Gemara say on that? The Talmud says, anyone who says that's cruel, guess what? That's heresy. You're going to say, come on, you really think that's what God wants you to do? And that's really what the Torah means? Yeah, it does. If they're going to get offended, by what the Torah says, and they're upset the Torah's anti-pig. Right? Or the Torah's anti-homosexuals. Or whatever it is. So we can give reasons why the Torah says it. Maybe the reason, not the reason, whatever it is. And someone jumps up and down and says, I can't believe that's what the Torah says. And I'm offended if that's the God you believe in. But it's true. If essentially it's true, why do I have to worry what they think? In other words, they're going to get offended, okay? Can't make everybody happy over here. But that's what the Torah says. So if they get offended, okay. And if they say, I can't believe God would say this, and you believe that, you don't have to answer any of this because it's not going to go anywhere. We mentioned this before. It's not going to go anywhere. It's a total waste of time. Total waste of time. But that being the case, I have to worry someone's going to get offended. Why do I have to worry? If what I said is true, and that the Torah is true, whatever it is, someone ruffles their nose up, so to speak, they get offended. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to get offended over it. That's not a problem. Right? That is not my issue. Totally not my issue. We can't sugarcoat over here. There are certain things we can't change. Or many things. That's it. I've been put in certain situations, bad situations, let's say, right? Pretty bad situations. And nothing I can do. The only thing I could try and do is damage control. Because when someone's offended and someone's upset, the only question how much damage you're going to do. So there are times I had to make certain decisions, obviously with rabbinic authority behind it. They told me what to do. I did it. Did I come out smelling like a rose? No. Were people offended? Yeah. I tried to soften the blow as much as possible, but there's only so much you can do. Coffman's law, you cannot turn the Torah into a pretzel. You can't turn it into a pretzel. That's what the Reform movement does, what the conservative movement does. Right? They make it up as they go along. Can't do that. Listen, if there's a leniency, I can rely on the leniency or whatever. Fine. If I can't, what am I supposed to do? Intermarriage is forbidden. Across the board. Everyone agrees. Right? According to the Bible, according to the Torah, you can't intermarry. Jew cannot marry a non-Jew. Non-Jew converts, one thing, but a Jew can't marry a non-Jew. That's what the Torah says. That's pretty clear. What can I do? It's on Webster's fifth definition, only meant for that generation, other things. That's what it says. Now, someone who's intermarried and they want you to acknowledge it, can't do that. Can't say it's a good thing. Or I have this question. People ask, what if they work, they work and people they work, but, work with, people who they work with, what happens? People who they work with, they're married to someone they shouldn't be with. Right? Or let's say they're homosexual, whatever. Can you go to the wedding? Can't go to the wedding. Right? You're not allowed to go to the wedding. Are you allowed to give them a gift? Problem giving a gift also. Now, in that situation, for sure, they're going to be offended. There's no question about it. But at the same time, can't put a stumbling block in front of someone. You can't give credence to something that's forbidden. And that's what they want. They want people to say it's okay. We can't do that. So you're going to tell me, isn't that going to offend them? That's going to offend them. 100% that's going to offend them. What can you do? Who would you rather offend? Let me say better. Who would you rather offend? Someone who's flesh and blood? Even though that's what the Torah says? Or God? And have to pay that price. So someone here points out, very true. You need to speak up for, speak out against evil, but you have to walk a tightrope. Yeah. They have to know when to say something, when not to say something. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you have no choice. I don't always give out information, let's say, family members, unless they ask or someone says something. So remember someone mentioned something, whatever it was. And I said, yeah, that's the halacha. That's what it is. And they're like, really? This, that. I never have it down their throat. Told them what it is, what's behind it, and that was it. They weren't too happy. What can you do? Will I rebuke somebody if they're not going to listen? I mean, I may say something anyway. Sometimes there is an obligation, even if they're not going to listen to rebuke. Very well true. But people say we don't know how to rebuke today. So if we don't know how to rebuke today, people throw that out and say, well, I don't have to say anything. Not true. Very complicated. Right? There are times you certainly do have to rebuke. And whatever you're going to say, you better know what you're talking about also. Right? Like someone else said, you got to do research. Also, you have to know. And again, sometimes it's just, that's it. Nothing you can do. You can try and soften the blow, but doesn't always work. Definitely doesn't always work. But one thing for sure, if I say what the Torah says, and I say this is the halacha, and this is what we believe in, this and that, someone trashes it. Someone makes fun of it. Someone's offended, tell a homosexual you believe what they're doing is an abomination. I think they'll probably be offended. Right? Or the fact that they'll say you're homophobic, you don't believe what they're doing and whatever. Old school and whatever. Let them say what they want. You can't say it's okay. That you can't do. Listen, even for a Noahide, that would be the case. Because that's even forbidden according to them. As a forbidden relationship. So yeah, you get yourself into sticky situations. So I can tell you, personal experience. Sometimes it was better, sometimes it was worse. I did what I had to do. Listen to my rabbis, told me what to do. Sometimes it was better, sometimes not. And there's nothing you can do. You try and soften the blow as much as possible. And they don't like it, okay. You tell them, go eat cuckoo. Whatever, what are you going to do? It can get very heated and you just drop the subject. They keep hammering you, what are you going to do? You can say, yeah, this is what the Torah says. It'd be very easy to belittle people. Not that you should do it. But I was just listening to someone, say it's one of my personal pet peeves, we mentioned many times, and that is people talk up a good game without knowing anything, without knowing the subject matter. But they talk. That, I can tell you personally, is offensive. It's offensive. Because you wouldn't do it in any, almost any other thing. Even though I think people open their mouths about a lot of things they don't know anything about. They saw it in the news, they heard something, this, that, and they think it's true, it's the word of God, without doing research. Right? When it comes to Judaism, people say all kinds of things. And all kinds that don't make sense. No knowledge, whatever. So that would be very easy if a person had, knowledge. It would be very easy to say, come on. You've never read the Bible from cover to cover. You can't read Hebrew. You've never studied. You've never looked into anything, but, you claim X, Y, and Z. Like, really? Well, that's my opinion, but it's not research. That's right. So I can say I've been learning for 25, 30 years. Gone through a lot, plenty of things I don't know. Plenty. That made me a world-class expert? Not necessarily. I'm a bigger expert than this person. No question about it. So I can say, humor me. Come on. I can have a lot of fun with this. Make people look really stupid. Because I wouldn't take someone, let's say, someone who's an expert in junk bonds and finance. And I know zero about finance. And I would tell them, you're head of a hedge fund. I want you to put money, into this firm, into this company, because it starts with the letter C. Like the beginning of my name, Chaim, starts with the letter C. I want you to invest money in that. Do you think they're going to give me the time of day? Never. I mean, someone said, yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. Come on, it's a joke. They're not going to listen to you. So now you come the other side. You're coming with nothing, with zero. And you say, I'm offended, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other thing. Okay, did you do your research? No. Did you look into anything? No, but that's what I believe. You're going to have a conversation? The conversation, a waste of time. Now, let's say a person grew up as a Christian. A person, a former Christian, a Christian say something, and you want to answer. You can answer them. A lot of them don't have the greatest knowledge, for sure. You want to answer them, answer them. I'm just saying, you don't necessarily have to, every second someone says something to answer. A lot of times, not worth it. You ever deal with a missionary? Missionaries know certain things. You answer up their question, they go to something else because they don't have answers. That's what you do. That's what they do. It's like talking to a brick. So a lot of people are, it's a waste of time, even when it comes to family. A cousin of mine was here a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned a few things here and there. That was it. Didn't go further. Made my point. Propaganda never goes to waste. Maybe you'll think about it one day. Maybe not. Sit there and, hammer the point. Oh, it was a waste of time. We talked about other things. But whatever. I made a number of points. I said things when I had to say things. Or I felt I had to say things. Or questions came up or whatever. Okay? But see, a lot of these conversations are meaningless. They're meaningless. They don't go anywhere. They don't change anything. See, that's our problem. See, we feel we're right. And we are. 100% we're right. You say, well, everyone has to be like you. That's not what I say. It's what the Torah says. If you're a Jew, you got to think a certain way. You got to do certain things. If you're a non-Jew, you're not going to convert. Also, you have what to do. But the Torah tells me clear. There's a right way, there's a wrong way. That's what the Torah tells me. Well, I don't like that. Okay. What am I going to answer? It doesn't fit your world outlook. I get it. Well, not too bad. That's the way it is. Show me proof why it's wrong. I don't have to do that. Had someone tell me that. I don't have to do that. I'm not going to change. My lifestyle is the way it is. Deal with it. Okay? It's not an answer. That just means they're not going to discuss it. So fine, you move on. So you try and keep the conversation part. That's what you try and do. But again, let's think a little bit deeper here. How do I overcome the tendency not to want to offend people? Because they're created in God's image. Even if they're obnoxious, they're creating God's image. So therefore, why would I want to say something that's going to offend someone? Think before you speak. General rule of thumb. Most people, I shouldn't say most, there are people out there that just talk. And they talk and they talk about, forbidden things, permissible things, whatever it is. They talk. And a lot of things they say don't mean anything. And it shows they have no knowledge in it. They just, whatever conversation piece. So you're in one of those conversations. You got to be careful. When you talk to anybody, you got to be careful. Because you don't want to offend people. You don't want people to offend you. Now, what happens if a person is sensitive? You've come out of Christianity. You've come out of Christianity. And now what happens? A lot of times this can happen, even for Baal Tshuva can happen. For a Jew who returns to Judaism, wasn't religious before. What can happen with family? They make you a pariah. So we haven't changed. You've changed. And they give you all kinds of problems, right? We've spoken about this a lot. Nothing you can do. They want to make fun, this, that. Okay, so person has to realize, these conversations go nowhere. You're not going to convince them. They're not interested in listening. So you nip it in the bud. You say, okay, next topic. That's it. You can say, I can't change this. They go on and on and on. Guess what? If you don't answer them, they're going to stop eventually. No one likes to have a one-sided conversation. Just say, except for me, because I like to talk. Maybe. No one likes, if someone's going to offend someone else or try to offend someone else, you don't give in to them. You don't flinch. You don't say anything. Well, guess what? They're not going to have too much fun trying to antagonize you. But once they feel they got under your skin, different issue. So you can't let them get under your skin. What's the problem? Not necessarily a problem with sensitivity. I mean, it could be. What's the problem? Because this is what we stand for. This is what we live for. And then someone's just making fun of it, belittling it, and they have a second grade education at best. So here, one of my personal pet peeves. Bothers me to no end, but guess what? Not much you can do. They're not going to listen. It's going to go nowhere. Waste of time. Total waste of time. So what do you do? You don't have these conversations. That's what you do. You move on. And if someone won't let it go, you got to walk away. You have no choice. I've had people tell me, we're not having this conversation. This conversation's done. Talk about other things, okay? Or if someone says something, maybe I'll give them a snappy answer, and that'll be it. They're not going anywhere. Most people are not the world's greatest arguers. They're not going to have information at their fingertips to be able to answer. So fine. You have to find, as the Rambam would say, a middle path. You got to be like, you got to be like Teflon. You got to be, something that said to you just going to bounce off. We're going to say, come on, but people can be offensive. And, people are going to say, isn't it true? Isn't it true? This, that, and the other thing. And they don't know what they're talking about. It's offensive. It's offensive to us. Because we've been studying, we've been learning. They haven't. And they just sit there and make fun. Right? Someone we mentioned last week. Isn't there more to life, than the Bible and than God? No. That's what it's all about. What's it about? TV, sports, entertainment, what? Politics? What's it about? That's what we live for. That's what we changed our lives for. And they're going to sit there and make fun of it? Okay. Sticks and stones, let them talk. Let them talk. It can be painful. But remember one thing. Someone who has the IQ of 20 or below, I'm not going to take what they take seriously at all. And when it comes to this, they deserve to, be sent to an insane asylum. They're insane. So I'm going to have an argument with someone who's insane for what? That's what I'd say about that. Now, second thing is what about being blunt? So yeah, we have to learn musar. We have to learn a lot of musar. Remember, being blunt, sometimes it's a good thing. I think it just kind of shocks people to a certain extent. Just like stops them dead in their tracks. That I don't think is a bad thing. At the same time, I would say, think about if someone would do that to you. Think about if someone would answer you the way you would answer. I think you'd be upset. I don't think you'd be too happy. If you like that, okay. I don't think most people like to get hit between the eyes. No matter what they say. I don't think most people would enjoy it. So I'd say the same thing. think before you speak. And I can tell you, I'm not always successful with this. But yeah, I can always be very blunt. But I think first, usually, before something is said. Because if not, you will offend people. 100%. But sometimes, you beat around the bush, conversation goes nowhere. Sometimes you're going to say, you got to be blunt sometimes. You just got to try and do it in a way that a person's not going to get offended. It's not so easy. But what's the most important idea over here? The most important idea is to think before you speak. That's the most important idea. And that's not always easy to do. And the reason is why? Because we give knee-jerk reactions. That's what we do. We're in a certain situation, we react and something comes out of our mouth before we get a chance to shut it. Because we react first. Can't do that. We can say, I'm in this situation, this happened. You got to stop. God wants you to be in control at all times. Not easy. No one's going to say it's easy, but that's my obligation. Right, so someone can say, but I've seen people do this, do that, and the other thing. Okay, I'm not going to answer for what people do that are wrong. I've also been the recipient a number of times. People said things that were pretty blunt. Sometimes it didn't affect me at all. Other times I'm like, are you, that's what you're saying? Again, let's think about how the world works. Person wakes up in the morning, they got more rest, they got less rest, they're half asleep, they're not, they go through their day. A lot of things happen. We go through a lot of mood swings. Great rabbi of mine once said, as a trained psychologist also, said about 75 mood swings an hour. Go up and down all day. So imagine we see someone and they just look angry. Or they say something maybe not according to their normal nature. Now let's think, why would that happen? Why it would happen? Because they're going through something, whatever it is. They're going through a hard time. Sometimes people hide it better. Some people wear it on their sleeve. And anywhere in between. See, everybody goes through these things. Everybody. We go up and down. Right? So the question is, you're outside, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with others, whatever the case is, you got to forget about what's going on. Person works in an office, you work with the public. No matter what's going on in your life, customer service, worth something. You can't wear everything on your sleeve over here. You got, business is business. You got to do what you need to do. You got to suppress some of these things or deal with it another time. Not so easy. Life is complicated. Very complicated. King Solomon says in Proverbs, we don't know what's going to be today. We for sure don't know what's going to be tomorrow. And we have to live. We go through so many things. Some more, some less, but yeah, we go through a lot. That's why the Mishnah Sanhedrin says, for me, the world was created. That means every person's their own world, their own complex world. Yeah, we're all made up of DNA and of cells and this and that. But you know what? We've been affected by all kinds of things in the world on a daily basis. The question is how we deal with it. We have ups and downs. Some people say, well, seems like it's more downs than ups. We got to be thankful. There's many things we got to be thankful for. Many things, which we've spoken about. But I would say there are times where, trying to be, I'm not going to say politically correct, but trying to say things in a way, in a roundabout way, this, that, sometimes you got to be blunt. You can't just beat around the bush. I'm not saying always. I'm not always blunt. Right? But sometimes you just got to say something. Sometimes you might have to put someone in their place and be blunt. But if a person does on a regular basis, yeah, that might not be good. So again, any musar safe would be good to think about. You take paths of the just, you take the ways of the righteous, or the gates of repentance. They're all good. They're all good. And the Mishnah Perkei Avos says, what's one of the best character traits to have is to be quiet. Sometimes it's better not to say anything. Well, I failed that. A lot of times. But I've learned over the years. There are times you just keep your mouth shut because that's what you got to do. Just better not to say anything. Or let's say a person's got this anger and they got all this anger inside. They just want to explode. Don't. Get the anger out somewhere else. And then when you're ready to deal with the subject, you deal with it. Right? Kids are driving you nuts. Kids are driving you nuts. And, a person's tired, this, that, going through all kinds of things. And, okay, you might have to discipline. But you discipline without, you can't discipline while you're angry. And the punishment has to fit the crime. If the kid gets punished and the punishment does not fit the crime, kid's not going to get it. Kid is not going to understand. So, a human being, again, I'm not a psychologist. I didn't play one on TV, right? Just explaining generalities. We are very complex. Every person's complex. Now, everybody knows if they've gone through a hard time, they know what it feels like. Whatever it is. Whatever that hard time is, you fill in the blank. So we know sometimes we're not at our best. We're not at the top of our game. Right? And sometimes we give that over because whatever, person going through a hard time. So now let's say the script is flipped. Where, we're in a better mood, this, that. And then we see somebody having difficulty or going through a hard time because you can read it on their face. You can see what they say, blah, blah, blah. We should have compassion for such a person because we know what it's like. We've been there. We know how it feels. So, when a person's blunt, I'll say this also. If a person's blunt, usually goes hand in hand, you will offend someone. Depends how blunt you are, depends the topic, whatever it is. So you got to be careful. We have to be sensitive to others. Right? My 11-year-old son this year started learning Gemara for the first time. And what do kids learn? The first thing they learn? They learn the second chapter of Bava Metzia. What does the second chapter of Bava Metzia speak about? Hashavas Aveda, returning lost objects. That's what they do. That's what they learn first. Why? To show that the world is not ownerless. To show that I have a responsibility in the world. That if I see lost objects, do I have to return it? Depends. Are there signs on it? Is the place a sign? Maybe it's left in a certain place, or let's say it was there was a certain structure. Let's say it was, let's say you had like a bunch of coins and they were all piled up one on the other. Is that a sign? Is that, other things. Why they learn that? To show the world's not ownerless. To show that, they have a responsibility in the world. So part of our responsibility is dealing with others. And a lot of these things, dealing with others. Let's just call a spade, right? It's good for Elul, good for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. And that is, if we do something wrong against somebody, we have to ask them forgiveness. If not, Yom Kippur, fasting, the next 50 years won't help. Totally won't help. Just not going to help. And there's a lot of laws in the books that have to do between man and man. So maybe a person should think in the back of their minds, if I really say something and someone's going to get offended, I'm going to have to ask them for forgiveness. I have to admit I did something wrong. Otherwise, I don't get atonement. Now, is that really what a person's going to think when they say it? No. Maybe they should. Maybe they should think before they speak. I'm going to have to answer, after 120 years. I'm going to have to answer for what I've done. Maybe that'll stop somebody. Yeah, so you got to think about how we speak and what we say. That you got to do. You can think about it's going to be punishment later, whatever, but everybody's created in the image of God. Everybody. So if everybody's created in the image of God, what? They don't deserve respect. They don't deserve to be talked to in a certain way. Yeah, but the person's a heretic, okay? And I should be able to do this, that, and the other thing, okay? Still, we have to be careful. And it might be 100% permissible. Someone who's evil, someone who's considered a heretic. I can say whatever I want about them. I can make fun of them, and there's a mitzvah to make fun of them and all that. True. That 100% is true. At the same time, I don't want to get carried away and do it in times where it's going to be forbidden. If it's permitted, fine. But when a person scoffs and make fun of and this and that, they may scoff and make fun of things that are forbidden. I'm not saying you can't do it. Totally permissible to do if someone's a heretic. No question about it. There's no question. What's the question? If I don't, if I do it the wrong way, I gotta be careful what I say. We got to think about what we say, not just react. We got to change. We got to change the way we think, especially the way we think about others. Rabbi Miller tells a story. If someone comes to synagogue, and this person just drives you nuts. I'll tell you a personal pet peeve of mine. I'll go to synagogue in the morning. Sometimes, people just walk up and down the aisle saying their prayers, back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, sit down. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I sit at the edge of a table, whatever. If I'm walking back and forth, they don't brush up against me, but it's just annoying. Like, give me my space. You want to walk up and down, go somewhere else. You got to tell me, the person got ADHD, and he's got this, he's got that. At least he comes to synagogue. Okay, says Rabbi Miller. Somebody like that drives you nuts. Right? Whatever it is. Let's say synagogue, we use synagogue as an example. Person maybe, talks in the middle of prayers, other things, and it really bugs you. It says Rabbi Miller, how am I going to love this person? How am I going to get to love this person? So it says Rabbi Miller, why can't you think, positive thing that at least the person comes to pray every day? There are a lot of people that don't come to pray at all. This person's there 3 times a day. Look for something positive. You say, but drives me nuts, and he speaks and he walks up and down, and okay. But if you don't look at something positive, you'll never love the person. He says, if you find positive things, you love the person. You come to love the person. Now, what's someone going to answer? Well, what would be the simple answer to that? Person still drives me nuts. Still drives me nuts. Right? Because I haven't worked on myself enough. Rabbi Miller would say, if you find the positive in the person, it's not going to bother you. And I've actually tried that. Been more successful. Listen, the person comes to pray. It looks like he has a lot of intention when he prays. Whatever, find something positive. It's easy to nitpick and find negative. Very easy. We live in that generation. Very cynical generation. Everything's bad. Nitpick, nitpick, nitpick. It's all bad. Right? Got to find the positive, a little bit of light. Yeah, someone asked, where's the quote where the worst thing someone can experience is not knowing and doubt? That's a good question. I'll have to find the source, but there is definitely a source for that. And it's a terrible situation to be in. And everybody's had it, I'm sure. Different times in their lives. They didn't know about this, a lot of unknown. Or just one unknown thing, doesn't matter. Something that's unknown, something we're in doubt, that's bad. It drives us nuts. We don't know what to do. Try like this, I don't know. Try like that, I don't know. It's bad. right? Sometimes, a person will have doubts. And when a person has doubts, how do you solve the doubts? Whether it's about something physical, something spiritual, or something like that. If a person's in doubt, what to do. Let's say there's a halachic question. So you can't go to Rabbi Dr. Google. They don't have an answer, right? He doesn't have an answer. She doesn't have an answer, whatever. Right? She doesn't have an answer. So you have to go to, you have to go to rabbinic authority to ask advice. Now, if they don't know, maybe you have to go to someone else, but you have to go to someone who knows about the world, who knows what's going on, and can steer a person in the right direction. Now, does that 100% answer up the doubt? Not necessarily. But see, it's a burden off your shoulders. So I can't even tell you how many times, I had questions, doubts, different things. I went to my Rebbe, wanted clarity. So, okay, this is a situation. What do I do with this? Or what do I do with that? And just about every time, I got an answer. Now, did it always work? I'm not going to say 100% always worked. Maybe I didn't listen properly. Other things, right? Other things going on. But see, when you go to somebody, especially with that stature, and they tell you, okay, do this, or do that, or do the other thing, you're in good hands. No matter what happens, you're in good hands. Why? Because that takes the burden off of you. In other words, we could have doubts, and we're not sure. You go to somebody like that, there are times you would tell me, I got to think about it. This is not an easy thing. Or, other times gave me answers on the spot. But see, it took the burden off of me. Because I could have said, I think like this, I think like that. And I could have been right. And a number of times I was, but other times I had doubts. I think like this, I think like that. And then he would set me straight. Right? Like he said, he once told me, if I ever think you're out of line, I'll put you in your place. I'm like, great. That's what I want to hear. What I want to hear. I want someone who's going to give me that guidance. Okay, I have to listen. I also have to listen. But see, that takes a lot of burden off of us. But you're going to say, even if they give advice, I have to take the advice and I have to do it. You're right. You're right. Who says that's easy? But see, that I think is a crucial thing, because even if it's hard, and even if it feels, like you'd rather slit your eyeballs and listen, right? Slit your eyeballs with a knife, obviously, right? You want to slit your eyeballs, rather than listen, but it's probably the best advice. Question is the person going to listen to the advice? So I can't say 100% all the time I listen to what my Rebbe said. A lot of times I did. Many times I did. I'm not saying a lot of times I came out smelling like a rose. I didn't. And there were things I had to do that were hard. That were extremely hard. But I listened. Made me stronger. Made my resolve stronger. But yeah, it was like slitting my wrists. It was hard. Some things were very, very hard. And I knew deep down he's 100% right. He's 100% right, but it was still hard to do. You don't go wrong by listening to rabbinic advice. You don't go wrong. And even like in the time of the Holocaust, where rabbis didn't tell people to flee, and that God took away their knowledge, right? Because they wanted people to get stuck, because it was a divine decree. But you don't go wrong. You never go wrong. Listen to rabbinic advice as long as they know what they're doing. If it's someone who's quote unquote the real deal and they know what they're doing, you don't go wrong. You don't go wrong. It might be hard to implement what they say, right? It might be hard to listen, but the bottom line is you don't go wrong. But I would agree, because everyone's been in this. Everyone has had this. Everybody at some point has doubts what to do. See, I say, I'll go with my gut, but you're biased. You can't necessarily go with your guts. when you're in doubt, you have to ask. Because it could go this way, that way. You might think like this. And then, someone will ask the question, like, wow, I didn't think of it that way. I told someone something a while ago, and they're just like, what did you just say? They're like shocked. They're like, I can't believe you just said that. I'm like, no problem. That's what I'm here for. But sometimes we think, and I had this by my Rebbe also, that I would ask him something thinking, I know which way it's going to go. And he comes out and says, no, this, that, and the other. I'm like, where'd you get that from? Why not this? And he answered like this, and he answered like that. I was like shocked. I've been shocked a number of times. I had something, it wasn't so recent, but something told me, and I thought to myself, I told my wife, this is what he's going to say. Clear, no doubts. Not only that, he's going to scream at me also. Right? I was ready. Right? I had my boxing gloves on. I was all set. I went to see him and I asked him this question. I was waiting to be hammered. And he's like, no, you can do that. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? What about this? And I threw something at him. I go, what about this? Not a problem. Yeah, but is it like this and like this? No. I was like, are you serious? He's like, I just told you. So then I asked it a different way. If I would ask you like this, I'm not. So I asked him a different way. He said the same thing. Same exact thing. Listen, he's the Torah giant of the generation today. According to everybody. They may not agree with him. They may think he's a fanatic and everything else. He's the Torah giant today. No question about it. Called my wife afterwards and he's like, you'll never believe what he said. I was like, you're never going to believe what he said. Because if someone else would have said it, I would have hit him in the face. I was like, come on. That's really true? Yeah, that's what he held. Well, I love someone like that. He's got big shoulders. Not afraid to say what he thinks. Was I shocked? Shocked. Shocked. What can I say? That's why he's he's the Torah giant and I'm not. And he's way up there and I'm not because he sees things differently. And he knows a heck of a lot more. 10 lifetimes I won't come to the crust, between his toenails. Never going to happen. He's got that kind of knowledge. That kind of encyclopedic knowledge. Nobody like him today. Nobody. But he threw me a curveball I wasn't expecting. So, yeah, to be in doubt is not good. The source, I'll find it. I'll find I don't have it to tip my tongue here, but whatever. I'll send it to you. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone asks, can I know how I'd cut the flight feathers of a chicken so it won't fly out of its pen? Yes. That's not a problem. That wouldn't be called Rabbi Chaim causing it to suffer. Right? If it's something that causes it to suffer, but it's for your benefit, then you're allowed to. Right? As long as we have a benefit from it. If we don't have a benefit from it, that might be a different issue. Right? But something like that, you're gonna stop it, from flying. I see cows that have a thing in their ear that, someone steals it or whatever, they know who it belongs to. That can be painful. I guess never tried it, but I could assume, it'd be painful. Taking like a huge staple gun and putting it through your ear, I guess would be kind of painful. Right? But you're allowed to do that. Right? 100% you're allowed to do that. Even if it causes pain to the animals, it's my benefit. Because this cow's worth $500-600 more. It's worth a heck of a lot. Right? And, there are problems that, that people steal animals, whatever. So if it ever gets found, if it's not killed already, but if it gets found, they know to return it to. Right? Or they brand it. Even better. I think that's what they used to do. They used to brand them. So you can say, well, that's also painful. But again, there's a benefit. There's a definite benefit over here. So that's not causing a pain. I mean, it's causing a pain. Don't get me wrong. It's causing a pain, but it's not, it's for my benefit. So that I'm allowed to do. If it's just causing a pain for the sake of causing a pain, you can't do that. right? Even for a non-Jew, even for a no-Eye, that's forbidden, right? Just actually spoke about that 2 weeks ago for no-Eye nations about causing animals pain, right? For a Jew, there's the whole question: it's a Torah prohibition or rabbinic prohibition. Many hold a Torah prohibition. Could be for a non-Jew, definitely a rabbinic prohibition, at the least. I'm not sure it'd be a Torah prohibition or not, but you can't just do whatever you want to animals. But if it's a benefit to us, it's a benefit to man, you're allowed to. Someone asked, what are the ofanim and holy chayos, and srafim, in the blessings of the Shema? Blessings of the Shema, they are angels. There are different levels of angels. I would recommend, if you want a little more detail on that, the book Derech Hashem, the Ramchal speaks about it. It's a hard book to go through, but he speaks about different spiritual forces, and he speaks about the angels and the different levels of angels. Someone asked if the fish is not being cooked, what about the blood? Not a problem. Right? We don't hold fish blood is forbidden. It's only the blood of an animal. Right? And they're going out from different verses. Right? Fish blood is something else. So that would be fish blood would be okay. I think that there's a technical reason for that. Let me just double check that. Pretty sure it should be okay. It's just it's blood of an animal is a problem. That's why we salt it. That's why kosher meat not only so expensive. Nonetheless, animal blood will be forbidden, right? Fish blood. One second here. Let me just say, I could be wrong on that. Definitely wouldn't be the first time. 1 second. One second. So it is brought down that I was right, actually, that there's no requirement to salt the fish or blood or wash the blood away. That the Code of Jewish Law, Yeridea 66:9, says it's permitted, but if the blood is separated from the fish, let's say you took the blood, you squirted it out, put it in a bowl, that would be forbidden. Now, why is it forbidden? Interesting. Why is it forbidden? It's a problem with Mar Zayin. Mar Zayin means someone's going to look at it and they're going to say, oh, that was like animal blood, right? So it's only forbidden because of that, right? In other words, if it's removed from the fish itself, let's say, I'm not going to get gross here, you took the fish, you squeezed it, you squeezed out the blood, you put the blood in the bowl or in a cup, right? Now, technically, there's nothing wrong with it. Technically, according to the Shulchan Aruch, Code of Jewish Law, you're allowed to drink it, right? What's the problem? Someone's going to look at you and say, hey, that's animal blood. Looks like animal blood. So that would be a problem. That would be a problem what we call Maris Ayin, the way it looks, the way it appears. That, forget it in public, even if a person would do it in the privacy of their own home, still be forbidden, right? But if you wash it off, really, technically speaking, if you ate fish blood, wouldn't be a problem, right? Wouldn't be a problem. I'm not so sure, that would have, if it's permitted for a Jew, it would certainly be permitted for a non-Jew. That wouldn't be an issue. Some animals have issues of, let's say they pee on things that aren't fixed and cause damage to a house. No way to stop it other than to fix them or put them to sleep. You're allowed to put them to sleep. You don't, if I just got this question the other day. Someone had a dog. You're not gonna do any heroics. Dogs got cancer and suffering, whatever. You put it to sleep. No mitzvah to keep it around. There is a question, of getting it neutered. That is a question, right? So seems like I spoke about this on Tanakh Talk. Spoke about that. Seems like for a Jew, definitely forbidden to have an animal neutered, but to have it done by a non-Jew, I think is okay. But if there's no way to stop, let's say in this case, there's no way to stop it. There's no way to stop it. Why can't you give it away? Instead of putting it down, give it away. And maybe someone will take it. If you can't give it away, then if that's the problem, it's going to cause damage. It's only better for the only way to stop is get it neutered. Let's say, so get it neutered by non-Jew, right? You have a non-Jew do it. If it's a question really, it's not going to live or it's causing problems, and this and that, it's not necessarily forbidden to it, right? To put the animal down. Depends for what. It depends what. If I know someone has a dog it's like a therapy dog for one of their kids, and whatever dog's getting older and it's got all kinds, I don't know, it's got cancer, got other things. I'm not gonna do any heroics, when when it really starts suffering, they'll put it down. You're allowed to do that. You're definitely allowed to do that. The question is what I'd say if there's no other way to stop it except to neuter it, then you can neuter it, right? Then you can do that. If that's, I don't know, for some reason not an option, either you can put it down or give it away. See if anyone will take it. You're gonna say, well, it's my cat and I love it and this, or my dog. Okay, so then, if you can get it neutered better, if not, I don't know if that's something to put it down for. Maybe. I would say it depends how old and whatever. Other, maybe there are other factors involved. But, person can give it away also. That would take the burden off. Person allowed to brush your hair on Yom Kippur, that is forbidden. Just like it would be on Shabbos. 100% that would be, that would be forbidden. Someone asked, the wicked man mentioned in Grace After Meals. Says there's a portion of a wicked man from God. Okay, so what is that wicked man? I'll have to look that up and see. Any other questions? From the Genesis, see a lot of stories that the ends justify the means. Yeah, you know why the ends justify the means? Because that's what God wanted. Right? One example, Jacob marries Leah, ends up marrying Leah instead of Rachel. According to halacha, he had no intention to marry Leah. He shouldn't have been married to Leah. Well, what did he understand? He understood this is what God wanted, and God wanted to build up the Jewish people through Leah as well. So then that was okay. So in other ways, we see, he still is a blessing, quote unquote. We do see the ends justify the means. What if today, let's say, I'll give an example. Today, let's say, that a secular Jew has a Sefer Torah. Let's say he's got a kosher Sefer Torah. We'll make it easy. He's got a kosher Sefer Torah. He's not going to use it properly. He's probably going to get abused. Would it be permissible for somebody to break into their house or wherever it is and steal it? Right? So I'll give another example. Right? A similar example in a certain way. Many years ago, someone died. Here in Israel, they would keep the body overnight and they would do an autopsy. Autopsies are forbidden. Not allowed to. So there were many pious, zealous Jews that would break in to a morgue and quote unquote steal the body. So that couldn't be done. Now, if they would get caught, right? Let's say they did it in the States also. If they would get caught, there's dina de malchusa dina, which means you have to hold by the law of the land, right? In Israel, the whole question, if that's true, that's a whole different topic we're not going to get to. But the point is, they felt, this is such desecration of the body, so they would steal the body in the middle of the night. It's a known thing, and many great rabbis sanctioned it because you don't do autopsies on Jewish bodies. Person died, they died, whatever it was, doesn't matter. You bury them straight. Here in Israel, they bury within 24 hours. Within 24 hours. So in either case, I would say, doesn't the end justify the means? Could a person go to jail for it? Maybe. But in such a case, you want to stop certain abuse going on. Let's say if it's Sefer Torah or, an autopsy, whatever, you do whatever it takes to stop it. That you do whatever it takes if possible. Someone asks, I'm not sure what the question is. Jacob say from Ephraim and Menashe that, are his because they didn't have a Jewish mother. Who says they didn't have a Jewish mother? You're assuming Joseph's wife, Asnat, the daughter of Potiphar's daughter, right? Kind of interesting dynamics there because Potiphar's wife tries to get Joseph to sleep with her and does all these things. And he ends, and because she saw, according to astrology, she was, that she was supposed to have kids through Joseph, even though she made a mistake. It was really her daughter. So she went in a really blunt way of trying to seduce him and all that. But, imagine the family dynamics. He ends up marrying, Osnat, who's Potiphar's daughter, right? Who's Potiphar's wife's daughter, right? So Potiphar's wife is Joseph's mother-in-law. Imagine you think we got problems. Imagine the dynamics in his house. What went on. So Osnat was Jewish, and Joseph brought proof to Jacob that she was. So that's not an issue. So I'm not sure what the question is. But Ephraim and Menashe, that their mother was Jewish. Joseph's wife was Jewish. Had some sort of conversion, whatever it was, but she was considered Jewish. Someone here mentions it's forbidden. Used to be forbidden to light fires on Saturday. Now it's still forbidden. Right? You're not allowed to light a fire. Right? Torah says you're not allowed to light a fire on the Sabbath, whether it's Friday night, Shabbos day. Right? We're not allowed to, light a new flame, but if a flame's already lit, or you have a hot pot or a crock pot or whatever it's called, a hot plate, that's not a problem. So we get a non-Jew to get the wood and light the fire. It depends for what. Right? If it's a dangerous situation, they could probably do it themselves. But let's say a non-Jew comes and puts wood in the fire. Isn't that circumventing the law? Yeah, it is. But the question is, why would they do that? If they're doing it for the sake of a Jew. If they're doing it for the sake of a Jew, that's forbidden. If they're doing it for themselves, I can get benefit from it. For instance, you have you have a non-Jewish guest. Comes in your house, whatever, it's on Shabbos. They walk into a room, they turn on the light. You didn't ask them to turn on the light. They turn on the light for themselves. Now, you can't say, don't turn off the lights. Right? But let's say they walk out of the room, they don't turn off the light. I can get benefit from that. Why am I allowed to get benefits? Because he didn't do it for my sake. He did it for his own sake. If he did it for his own sake, not a problem. If he did it for his own sake, not a problem. If he did it for the sake of a Jew, right, that's a problem. Right? That 100% is going to be a problem. So yeah, if they would do it in a forbidden way, just by telling a non-Jew to do it doesn't mean it's permissible. If they didn't have wood, they're freezing, and it's for the sake of a mitzvah, you could tell them directly, or to tell them indirectly, right? But yeah, that would 100% be circumventing the law. That would be forbidden to do. I mean, let's say better. It's not circumventing the law; it's forbidden. Someone asked why Jacob say Joseph's sons were his. Because, I mean, really, all his kids were his. But you have to understand when, the firstbornship was sort of lost because of what Reuben did. He moved around the beds, in Yaakov's tent. So he sort of got brought down. He got knocked down from being the firstborn. Who's considered the firstborn now? Who took the firstborn? It wasn't anyone else except Joseph. Joseph is considered the one who took the firstborn. So therefore, since he took the firstborn, he says, or the Torah says, his sons are like his sons, right? That Joseph's sons were his. because Joseph took over the firstborn. Reuben got knocked down. 100% he got knocked down for what he did. So since he got knocked down for what he did, so that's why the Torah says that. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone asked why Jacob said daughters of Hamor, who that is, would be Jewish after they were circumcised. Daughters converted when their father does. Yeah. In other words, a parent converts. When parents convert, if their children are young, under the age of 12 or 13, right, they convert with the parent if it's considered a benefit for them. 100% if it's considered a benefit. If they're not going to go in the way of Torah mitzvahs, or, then it's not a benefit from them. So, even if they're 12, even if they're 13, 14, 15, we say that, they convert on their own, but they really go through the parents. In other words, the parents convert. It's like a whole family deal, right? The whole family converts. So the rabbis will convert the kids if it's a benefit, 100% if it's a benefit. If it's not a benefit for them and they're not going to keep Torah mitzvahs, or parents, and let's say, it's not a good fit for them for different reasons, whatever it may be, then they wouldn't convert. But they would be, but again, kids convert with the parents. The kids would have to go to a Jewish school, they have to live in a Jewish area. I mean, with all the criteria, right? And if they're younger, they'll go with the parents, and if they'll ask the kids, you want to convert, you want to do this, and some schools will take them before conversion. So therefore, if they're already in school and whatever, they'll just ask them a couple questions, and and that'll be it. Yeah. That's what I'd say about that. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop there. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Coffman, or beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimcoffman@gmail.com, RBBICHIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good